Good evening and welcome to the City of Westfield, Washington Township Advisory Plan Commission meeting for Monday, April 7th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Staff, would you please ascertain the presence of a quorum?
Mr. Bunkefist?
Present.
Mr. Horke?
Here.
Mr. Khan?
Here.
Dr. Keen?
Here.
Ms. Carlson? Mr. McCarty?
Here.
Mr. Mooney? Mr. Neal?
Present.
And Mr. Woodard. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. There are no changes to the agenda to announce. Next item is the approval of the previous meeting minutes for March 17th, 2025. Pleasure of the board.
Make a motion to approve March 17th, 2025 minutes.
There's a motion and a second by Mr. McCarty, motion by Mr. Bunkefist. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is the review of the rules of procedure from staff.
Yep, so this evening we do have items of business and public hearing items. So for items that require a public hearing, the department will summarize the petition. The petitioner will then be given up to 15 minutes to present to the Plan Commission. The president will open a public hearing. Individuals will be given 3 minutes to speak. Those representing a group will be given 5 minutes to speak. Only one member of the group will be given 5 minutes to speak. For efficiency purposes, we ask that those representing a group speak first. The public hearing will be closed when all interested members of the audience have had a chance to be heard and all emails received during the meeting have been provided to the Plan Commission members. The petitioner will then be given 10 minutes to respond to comments without interruption. The Commission will follow with any comments, questions, or concerns regarding the petition. This may include additional discussion with the petitioner. Procedures for items of business. For items that do not require a public hearing, the department will summarize the petition and highlight any changes or modifications since the item was last before the Plan Commission. The department will also describe what action, if any, is necessary to be taken. The petitioner will be given up to 15 minutes to present any changes. The Commission will then act upon the petition. And then we just wanted to cover a few general rules of conduct for this evening. Please do not disrupt the proceedings in any way. If you need to have a private discussion, then we ask that you please quietly exit the room. Please silence your devices at this time. If you must answer them, then please quietly exit the room. If you are attending in person and wish to speak in regard to a petition scheduled for a public hearing, then please line up along the west wall once the public hearing is open for that particular item. Please sign the speaker sheet as you approach the podium. For efficiency purposes, we ask that those representing a group speak first. During your comments, please state your name and address into the microphone for the record, and we ask that you do not repeat previously stated comments. Your presentation will be timed, and you will be advised when there is approximately 30 seconds remaining. If you are not attending in person, comments regarding a petition, they shall be emailed to planners@westfield.in.gov with a petition name or number included in the subject line. Those comments will then be forwarded to the Plan Commission members and the petitioner. We would like to remind everyone to please speak directly into the microphone so your comments can be put onto the record. Also, please mute your microphone when not speaking. If you come to the podium to speak, please ensure that the microphone is on as indicated by the green light at the base of the microphone. Thank you.
Thank you, Weston. And just as a note, just for those that are online, just because I won't wait too long for emails if we don't have any folks in the room, planners@westfield.in.gov. Get your name on the list so that if you have something to say or to submit, that we can make sure that we see that. Also, please note that at 7:01, Mrs. Carlson did arrive, just for the record. Good evening and welcome. So did I. Progress indeed. We have no consent agenda items for this evening, so we'll move to items of business. First item before us is the Plan Commission Order 25-02, amendments to the East Side EDA and creation of the Grand Millennium Center allocation areas. I will open that to staff.
Yes, thank you, President, APC members. Good evening. For the record, Ryan Collingwood with the Community Development Department, and I will be introducing this item in the absence of the Economic Development Department. So the purpose of this item is to amend an existing economic development area in which is the East Side EDA. In addition, 3 new areas will be created to align with 3 project phases contemplated by the PUD amendment for the Grand Millennium Center. The purpose of expanding the EDA is to provide opportunities to use TIF dollars captured by development on these parcels to invest in public infrastructure improvements that benefit the area. For timeline purposes, a bond ordinance will be introduced to the City Council on April 14th with the intention to fund public parking and other public improvements. I am available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions from the board or comments? Dr. Keen.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to send a positive recommendation on Plan Commission Order 25-02 to the City Council.
Motion by Dr. Keen. Is there a second?
Are we actually making a recommendation, or are we voting on this?
So in the note here from staff, this says forward a recommendation to City Council, but is that correct or incorrect? Because the document that you provided has signatures for voting for and against.
Yes, this is a resolution.
This
so
is a
it
resolution.
would be a vote.
Okay, so would you amend your motion? So not a recommendation, but actually for approval?
Certainly.
Okay, motion amended by Dr. Keen. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Horke. Any further discussion? All right, please call the roll.
Mr. Bungelfest,
Yes.
Mr. Horke,
Yes.
Mr. Khan,
Yes.
Dr. Keen,
Yes.
Ms. Carlson,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
and Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I think on that also, for the board, we'll need to sign that at the end of this meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can go ahead and pass this.
Oh, pass it now?
up
Great.
there if you
Very
want
good.
to,
Thank
before
you.
we forget.
No, that'd be perfect. Thank you
President.
very much. Next item on our agenda under items of business is 2501-PUD-01 Grand Millennium Center Planned Unit Development Ordinance, Amendment number 4. We'll open that to, I think, Ryan, you have it again?
Yes, I do. Thank you, President and APC members. Again, for the record, Ryan Collingwood with the Community Development Department. The item before you is a proposed amendment to the Grand Millennium Center Planned Unit Development District, in which was originally established in 2016 as Ordinance 16-51. The subject parcels make up approximately 17.1 acres and are generally located on the west side of Westfield Boulevard and generally south of the new library development and north of the Anna Kendall Drain. Since the item's public hearing on January 14th, there have been a few modifications to the project proposal. First off, an updated bubble concept plan will now be tied to the ordinance as Exhibit 5, instead of the detailed site plan that was seen at the item's public hearing. The aforementioned detailed site plan will now be tied to a voluntary developer commitment or seen within Exhibit 6. As written, the detailed site plan and provided character exhibits within the voluntary commitment will only apply if an economic development agreement, or EDA, is established with the Economic Development Department. I will allow the petitioner to provide a little bit more context on that if the commission does request. With that said, the item is in front of you this evening for its recommendation from the APC to the City Council, and David George of CRG Residential is present this evening for the item's recommendation. However, he does not plan on making an update presentation for the commission, but available for questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. Board members, questions, comments? Or pleasure of the board?
Make a motion to recommend 2501 PUD-01 to council.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bunkovich, second by Mr. Khan. Any further discussion? Staff, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Horke,
Yes.
Mr. Khan,
Yes.
Dr. Keen,
Yes.
Ms. Carlson,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
Mr. Neal,
Yes.
and Mr. Bungelfest.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. That exhausts that portion of our agenda. We will now move to public hearing items. First item before us is 2504-PUD-04, Town Road Crossing PUD Amendment 1. Looks like, Ryan, we got you again.
Yes, thank you, President, members of the APC, again, for the last time, for the record, Ryan Collingwood with the Community Development Department. The item before you is a proposed amendment to the Town Road Crossing Plan Unit Development District. The Town Road Crossing PUD was originally established through Ordinance 07-26 back in 2007. The amended real estate now comprises approximately 144 acres located south of State Road 32 and generally located northwest of Little Eagle Creek Avenue. The proposed amendment to the Town Road Crossing PUD district generally outlines modifications to align the PUD's development language with more up-to-date tendencies that we see today in Westfield, as this PUD is nearly 20 years old with some relatively out-of-date regulations. In addition, the amendment will incorporate an additional 26 acres that is not contemplated within the current PUD district, and within the submittal, a new concept plan and character exhibits are also incorporated to reflect the desired development of the real estate. This item is in front of you this evening for a public hearing. The item has been properly noticed and advertised, and staff has received one public comment regarding this petition, and I have printed out for all the APC members this evening. John Dobashewitz of Nelson and Frankenberger is here this evening representing the petitioner, and he will be providing a brief presentation to the commission. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Domasarowitz. Welcome back. The floor is yours. Good evening. For the record, John Domasarowitz with Nelson and Frankenberger. We represent the petitioner, Platinum Properties Management Company. And with me this evening is Paul Reed on behalf of Platinum Properties, as well as Jim Schennever, an attorney with our office. The slides on the screen now are excerpts of information that was submitted to staff and for the purposes of a presentation. Some of this may be redundant as to what Mr. Collingwood expressed earlier. But to start, as indicated by staff, the Town Road Crossing PUD was approved in 2007. In 2023, the real estate here to the, that's shaded in orange, east of Centennial Road, all this real estate here, was rezoned by the City Council to allow for the construction of a new middle school and transportation facility. The portion of Town Road Crossing that was north of State Road 32 included approximately 500,000 square feet of office and retail development, as well as 300 multifamily dwelling units. But again, that area was rezoned a couple years ago to allow for the middle school and transportation bus facility. The real estate on the south side of 32 that was the subject of the 2007 rezone remains undeveloped. That area is outlined and dotted in red. So the area dotted in red here, as you follow along my cursor on the screen, that area was a part of the original 2007 ordinance. The 26 acres that's being added to the request are those areas that are still outlined in yellow. The overall's outlined in yellow. Along State Road 32 here, a couple acres, and then about 22 acres, 23 acres in this location. There's an intervening parcel, the Rowdebush family, that's about 3.5 acres that is cut out, not included in the request this evening. The petitioner continues a dialogue with that owner about potentially being added to the PUD as part of this rezone request or at some point in the future. But again, that dialogue is continuing with that owner that is not included today as part of the request. As indicated by staff, the purpose of the development and the amendment here this evening is threefold. One would be to add those 26 acres to the overall 118, which would comprise of the 144 total acres on the south side of State Road 32. The other would be to update the format and content of the PUD so that it accommodates current expectations regarding PUDs. As I indicated, the original ordinance was approved in 2007. At that time, we didn't have the modern UDO that Westfield does today, so that we would update for current expectations and development standards in that regard, including the State Road 32 overlay standards, which are in place today and not applicable to the real estate as it exists currently. And it also addresses the development vision for the subject area, including in the plan unit development, which I'll describe over the course of my presentation. This is a proposed concept plan for the development of the real estate. The plan provides significant enhancements to the benefit of the city. The amendment will limit auto-centric uses in the commercial area along State Road 32. The open space and amenity requirements have been enhanced to include a pool and other amenity elements within the development. With approval of the amendment, the PUD will also accommodate the current planned alignment for Town Road. Previously, this is the identification of Town Road. It sweeps to the north and west, crosses the flood zone, and traverses our site generally along the section line that Town Road is today. To the north side of State Road 32, the school's picking that up and extending it north across their real estate. Originally, the plan in 2007 was for the road, Town Road to cross, similar to the alignment that's shown here as it crosses the bridge, but then turn due west and come across the site and intersect State Road 32 in approximately this location, where today is planned there's only a right-in, right-out access. This alignment and the proposal that's in front of you this evening will expedite dedication of right-of-way and the construction of Town Road north of the bridge crossing of Little Eagle Creek. I note that as the bridge crossing will take the most amount of time for the construction of the road that the city's currently under design with. But with the development of this real estate, it would be constructed from State Road 32 down to this entrance to allow for access into the area before that section was completed to the south, which includes the bridge. The extension of the Midland Trail is also included, and it's included in a location that accommodates a crossing that's being discussed between the state, the city, and the schools. This is the alignment of the Midland Trail as identified on the plan, and then it's going to turn and go due north. And this is Centennial Road that you can see right here on the plan, and the proposed crossing may or may not be either a separated grade crossing similar to the crossing of the Monon, or it would be at grade, but it would occur at that intersection of Centennial rather than a mid-block crossing further west that isn't at a traffic-controlled situation such that Centennial will be. Finally, the preservation of natural wooded areas along Little Eagle Creek would be included, along with the extension of the Little Eagle Creek Trail. For those unaware or uninformed about the Little Eagle Creek Trail, it's identified here in yellow. That trail is the third leg of a trail system that includes the Midland, the Monon, and the Little Eagle Creek Trail. There are other sections of the Eagle Creek Trail constructed further to the north, but it creates a loop or a triangle that'll connect all three of those roadways those pathways once completed. That'll be a great amenity and asset for the community. This section across our site would be constructed with this development. These are the various land use areas in the proposal. And I want to note that the proposed amendment is not significantly different from the current PUD in terms of land use. The current PUD permits various residential areas and commercial and business uses, including a total of 270 permitted homes on the real estate today. Area A, as you see here in the lighter green color, will remain single family, including 95 homes. Area B, that's identified in brown, was previously planned for fourplex dwellings, and that's going to be modified to include approximately 77 alley-load single-family detached homes. The areas that you see with the dashed lines, those are the streets. There would be intervening plazas between houses, and those houses would access via an alley rather than fronting on a roadway. Next would be Area C. Area C is along the north side of the Midland. Area C is an area that's designed for townhome development. That townhome development is currently authorized under the ordinance, and that area would include 124 townhomes. Finally, Area D, which is the commercial area that's shaded in gray, that remains along State Road 32. And as noted earlier, I want to reiterate that compliance with the commercial architectural standards of the State Road 32 overlay are going to be mandated with regard to this development where it's not applicable today, so there'll be architectural enhancements realized at that location. Additionally, staff had indicated that they wanted to see restrictions on auto-centric types of uses, so uses have been restricted, no auto sales, no auto rental, things like that. And also, in addition to that, drive-through uses have been restricted. And if there is developed in the future a fuel station, there could be a maximum of one fuel station located on the real estate. So we're backing away and making restrictions with regard to auto-centric uses that are more predominant further east along State Road 32. Finally, we had a neighborhood meeting a couple weeks ago. The southeast buffer area that's outlined here in red was an area of significant interest by those residents who live along Little Eagle Creek Avenue. The homes that are along Little Eagle Creek Avenue, in particular on the west side, most if not all, back up to the Little Eagle Creek, either within the flood, somewhere within the floodplain, but some are inside and outside of the flood zone. Nevertheless, the white line here represents the shared property line. Those lots exist along the east perimeter of the site. Those residents mentioned that they had an interest in buying a portion of the area that would be common area within the development so that they could have larger lots. There was a concern about folks trespassing into that space, and the reason for that is that the shared property line doesn't follow the creek. Sometimes the creek is on the east side of the property line and on those individual lots, and other times it runs on the subject real estate.
Plowton Properties ran that by staff. They're amenable to crafting text in the ordinance that would allow for that to occur. It would allow for residents here in that area outlined in red to purchase additional real estate up to the tree line. The tree line runs approximately where that light green dash line runs. We would share that with the Plan Commission at the time of the workshop meeting in May, but wanted to get the Plan Commission's feedback with regard to that idea or that request. It would remain an area that included the trees, remained undeveloped, but the idea being that it would be part of those private lots rather than common area within the subdivision. Finally, the trail that runs along the east side of the pond here, the recommendation by these residents who lived along here was that we take that trail and put it on the back side of the lots to kind of additionally enhance that area of separation between their existing home sites and the flood zone. While that's not our preference, Paul's agreeable to that modification. Again, we wanted to get the Plan Commission's feedback on that proposed modification. But after tonight's meeting, we'll continue a dialogue with those residents and come back to the Plan Commission at the May workshop meeting with more definitive text in the ordinance and an update on the advancement of any decision on their part to purchase a portion of that real estate, if that's the direction things move. With that, I'll conclude. Be glad to address any questions the Commission has either now or, of course, at the conclusion of the public hearing. And if folks are interested, I have another slide that we received from the city, and that's the alignment that they're currently studying and underway for Town Road between 166th and State Road 32. If you go to the city's website and this agenda, you can download the packet and print that for yourself if you're somebody from the public who is interested. I know that information isn't always easy to find on the city's website, but we wanted to provide it nonetheless if someone was interested. So with that, I'll conclude.
Thank you, sir. Any immediate questions or comments for Mr. Domashewitz before we move to the public hearing portion? Seeing and hearing none, we will move into our public hearing. As a reminder, our purview is particularly land use. You're welcome to make any comment, of course, you like. If you do have some comments, you can line up against this wall here. There's a clipboard there by Weston. You'll sign in, come up, give us your name and your address, and make your comments. With that, if you want to do that, you can start doing that now. Those that are online, remember, planners at westfield.in.gov, get us your name and information and what have you, and we will try to get to you as soon as possible. I will now open the public hearing at 7:22 p.m.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thanks for giving us a chance to speak. I'm Elizabeth Armstrong. I live at 16414 Town Road. And I just wanted to share my view about our comprehensive plan. And based on our comprehensive plan today, and I'll paraphrase this, we recognize that the southwestern area of the township identified as rural on the map is unique relative to the other rural areas. The policy of this comp plan is that the character of this area remain essentially unchanged. New growth and development in this area should be reviewed with the intent of ensuring that it is compatible both from a use and density perspective with minimal impact on the natural and visual environment. So presently, nothing new has been approved to change this, to my knowledge. I know you're all working on the comp plan now, but it still is what it is. That being said, 296 dwellings on 144 acres is extremely high. That's over 2 dwellings per acre. Rural zoning is 0.33 per acre or 1 dwelling per 3 acres. Originally designed to be a conservation subdivision in 2007, this new plan has no relation to the creek views or topography, and it defies the plan of the people of Westfield and the plan that we were promised. And I also have a question for the developer. I'm just curious. I always thought many years ago that Town Road they were thinking about extending it up to 32. and they didn't because there was the presence of wetlands. So correct me if I'm wrong. I just wondered, and I just wondered if the developer has had a waters report done, and I'd just like to know if an on-site field investigation has been completed to determine the presence of wetlands. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next person who would like to speak, your name and address, if you would. And you have 3 minutes. Welcome.
Hi, Chad Hughes, 17118 Little Eagle Creek Avenue. We live within the woods where that angle, you kind of see the triangle there. A couple of points I want to bring up that's really pertinent to this. Number one, during the neighborhood meeting, there was some confusion as the creek was the property line, and that just is not accurate. The creek traverses all our properties. We own on both sides, all the residents through there. Down, and you see the far corner to the right, bottom right, that's a property line that is near the creek, but the creek comes up near the road right there, if you're familiar, if you've driven down through that way. So we own on both sides of the property, or on both sides of the creek, our properties. That's a huge concern moving forward with the common area. The developer may have a deal with us, but as you know, it'll go to the builder and then to the HOA. So it's going to change. He's going to be removed 2 times. And any deal that we were to have an understanding can change. So that's why we want to have that property acquired to what we want to be able to acquire that so that we have control over a very clear tree line, and that's the property line. You know, a good tree line makes better neighbors. And then there's no question from a trespassing standpoint, especially with what we had this past weekend with the rains, that whole area filled up with water. So that is a safety issue, especially since we're going to come in off the Midland, and that's going to be a new trail system. Not only are you going to have those residents, but you're going to have the entire population of all the residents and visitors of Westfield being able to access that area. That's why it's pertinent to move that trail to the west of the retention pond, not the east. They can view, with that elevation change, there's a tremendous amount of topography. It's over 20 feet in some areas. So they can view the trees from a distance. And it'll have less impact on all the brown bats that are in the area, the barred owls, all the eagles, all the other wildlife, the deer. And that's why it's very important that we do that. Not only that, the Richards that live down to the south, their
30 seconds.
backyard, thank you. Their backyard is right near that bottom corner. So it's imperative that we have that cooperation, but I will want to leave this. For the last 5 years with Westgate, the schools, everything else, next year when this starts, especially in July, when it's dry and the prevailing west winds come out, we're going to be nothing but a dust bowl over there, and we're going to hear nothing but backup alarms from 7 a.m. to 10 o'clock at night. We've been doing it for 5 years. That's something you guys really need to consider for the other residents that are here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, very much for your comments. Next up, again, if there are others that want to speak, you can get in line here, sign up at the podium there. Ma'am, the floor is yours. Good evening.
Okay, thank you. Sarah Gillum, 16501 Little Eagle Creek Avenue. Mostly I'm going to speak for the nature today. So the 2025 State of the Bird Study by Cornell University has shown an alarming decline in bird populations in North America. The causes of this are multifactorial, but one of the main causes, the highest ranked causes, is habitat loss. So whenever we build something like this, we are losing habitat, even if they try to stay away from the wooded area, because lawns, et cetera, are really a loss of habitat. So watershed areas, as you know, are areas that drain into a waterway. So all of this, although all of it is not in the floodplain, it all is considered a part of the Little Eagle Creek watershed. And watersheds are very important habitat to animals, birds. So this development, and especially taking Town Road across the creek, which will be going through the floodplain across the actual creek, it's going to disrupt and destroy a lot of habitat that birds and other animals use. Around this creek, herons, eagles, owls, ducks, and many, many other hawks, many other birds use this area. To me, it seems like a kind of a cruel exchange to make travel like seconds to minutes faster and more expedient, and at the same time then take away the homes and habitats for many species. So I want the members of the advisory committee to consider carefully analyzing this proposal or getting help to analyze the wildlife and habit impact of this. Because I know that you might not feel that the fate of birds or conservation is really your responsibility or concern, but you do have the power and authority to revise or or ask petitioners to revise, to reject or approve developments throughout Westfield. So I ask that you consider what will happen to habitat during the process of construction and also
30 seconds.
Thank you. And also after, because once that road is there, once the lawns are in, the runoff, et cetera, it really can affect wildlife in a big way. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your comments. Are any other folks? Oh, very good. Good evening. Perfect. We have a document that she has provided for us, so that'll come down the
Yes,
way.
I'm going to be brief. Studies suggest that the majority.
Excuse me, ma'am. Could you give us
I'm
your
sorry.
name and address on the
Sorry.
record? That's perfectly fine.
I'm so familiar
That's-
with this.
It's totally okay.
My name is Virginia Kelleher, and I live at 3920 West 166th Street. Studies suggest that only a minority of residents on golf course communities actually play golf. The appeal of golf course communities extends beyond golf. For many residents, the primary draw is the open space, the vistas, the passive and active recreation in their neighborhood, rather than the golf course itself. When we created this conservation subdivision, and Ryan, can you put up the original? Ryan notified me today that there was a bad link, so when you were looking at the staff report, you could not go to the original PUD. So I asked him to, he's fixed that, but I've asked him to go to the original PUD and show you at the very, very end. The last page or two. Go up one, up there. This is the original PUD, and you can see State Road 32 there and all the commercial that was going to be to the north, which is now a school. Then there was commercial to the south. Then there was a buffer of townhomes from the residential. And below that was a conservation subdivision. When this was passed, well, first of all, when we created this conservation subdivision in this section of the rural Southwest, it was to create a golf course community without a golf course. So people had those vistas, the amenities that people buy on a golf course even if they don't play golf. It was to cluster homes into small sections and then preserve open space, put in trails, passive and active recreation areas. When this was passed, I didn't think it would ever be built as it was written. We spent a lot of time with DNR and Soil and Water and John, who helped with a lot of this. But I hoped that the principles of this conservation subdivision would be preserved to at least some extent. Usable open space, not just retention ponds, but open space that is visible to everyone, not just people whose backyards face the creek, to a sterile pond. When we worked with the DNR and Hamilton County Soil and Water to create things like rain gardens, which would not require as many ponds because a lot of this drainage would be taken into the creek via
30
rain
seconds.
gardens and other things. We were hoping for the beautification of Little Eagle Creek, much like what was done downtown with what used to be a fairly ugly ditch that ran through the town that is now amazing. The new design that has been shown to you in this new proposal is a typical cookie cutter subdivision. And while I understand that many parts of the original PUD need to be updated, I hope that Westfield's new approach to subdivisions is not as mundane as this one looks. I asked members of the APC which of these two designs you would rather live in. I know that John has a lot of creativity. He's a smart man, a good land planner, and I know he could make this better. But again, he's only an employee of the developer.
Ma'am, your time is up.
Okay. I believe Paul also has the ability to make it better. You did a better job in Countryside than I thought. And I hope that Westfield has the ability to do that.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you for providing the exhibit. Without objection, we'll enter it into the record, as well as the comments from Mrs. Berkman that we received late. Come on up. Give us your name and address from the record, and you have 3 minutes, sir. Good evening.
Martin Ratty Bush, 2615 West State Road 32. I live in the area that they show that said was 3.5 acres, the blue section. It's more like 6, and they show planting my property in their PUD.
I don't have any response for you. What we'll do is we'll let, and you can stop the time for a second just so I can explain it. You'll give as much testimony as you'd like up to the 3 minutes, and then we'll let Mr. Domashewicz answer those questions at the end. So we'll let you continue, but I can't dialogue with you, but I'm going to let you speak and speak your mind. So if you would do that, please, and you may resume the time.
Well, I don't want my ground zoned into commercial. I'm still ag. They're showing my ground in their PUD.
Any other comments for us? That point is well taken, and we'll let Mr. Domashewicz answer that question or comment.
I'll have to agree with the other people. There is wetlands back in there, and there is a lot of wildlife. And they will run it out. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir, for your comments, and we'll make sure that they answer your concerns here towards the end. Next up, and again, if folks here in the audience wish to speak after this gentleman, please come up, sign up, and get in line. Good evening and welcome.
My name is Steve Richards. I live at 17002 Little Eagle Creek for the last 35 years. And if you could you pull up the site plan? Or maybe I can. It's the one I think. Not the one without the houses, just the district. Might help with at least a reference point of where we are.
The first one, Weston. Right there. All right.
I give that as a reference because obviously we are very close to the proposed Little Eagle Creek Trail. We've lived here for a long time without neighbors. We knew it was coming, but to be that close is going to be a shock. Last week, we had a fair amount of rain. I would rate the creek at about a 6 on a scale of 0 to 10, and we've seen 10s. I'm concerned a little bit about the retention pond spillovers as far as the amount of water that is going to be or has to be displaced because of the driveways and the asphalt and the roofs, and how that water is going to move into the creek, where it's going to move into the creek, and whether or not that is frankly north or south of me as far as how it relates to the amount of water. We live, our entire property is in the floodplain. And I just am concerned that the amount of water that's going to be displaced will cause the creek to rise at a faster rate than we've ever seen it. And that's what I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your comments. Any other members of our audience wish to address the commission tonight? Good evening, sir, and welcome.
My name is Michael LaPierre. I live at 17134 Little Eagle Creek Avenue. Our residence is right at the corner of Town Road and Little Eagle, just to the south. We have property on both sides of the creek. And my concern, as well as with Mr. Richards, is that the water runoff, how it's going to exit, how it's going to, affect the creek, the floodplains, the things like that. My other concern is the town road on how it aligns with the existing Little Eagle Creek, and how is that going to affect the flow, the water line, the natural wetlands area to there. The biggest other thing is the traffic that's going to be coming in and out of that entrance on to town, because the way that I understand this is that it's going to be two lefts on 32. You're only going to be able to go right, going eastbound on 32, and then right coming westbound into 32 from this neighborhood. So that means that most of the traffic is going to be town-oriented, with the unknown of how the town road is going to align to where it swoops in to make this conjunction is one of the other concerns that we have. The water, as far as the ponds go, I am, along with the other neighbors, that I would like to see those ponds be our separation in between this development and our property line there. The walkway also would be, in my opinion, more of a safety and privacy issue if we could push that walk trail closer to the housing units and create that buffer in between the houses and the lakes. This was the first time I've ever seen the prior original PUD, and if you could pull that back up, that looks like a whole lot better idea than what we got going on here. 2007 was a long time ago, and from what I have seen presented to me in the last 30 days compared to what was adopted in 2007,
30 seconds.
would better fit the area homes that we live in there. I mean, each one of our houses are every bit of an acre to 2 or 3 acres down that road. That right there looks a whole lot better than what we have presented to us right now. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your comments. Are there any other members of the audience that wish to address the commission? I think we have another coming to us.
I wasn't counting on visual aids, so I sort of did my own sort of, for example, down. It sort of does, the top one has the new and proposed plan, and it's just for the part that is from State Road 32 down. I didn't include all of the stuff that was going to be above State Road 32. Oh, you probably want my name, don't
Yes, please, if you would, that'd be great.
I'm Jennifer Smith, and I live at 16941 Joliet Road. So this was just a visual aid because I wasn't sure that there was going to be much to sort of compare the new and the old and what was there. And I'll get to that in a minute, but I did listen to the presentation to the city council that was done last week. And one of the things that struck me was that at the same city council meeting, Chris McConnell had given a presentation of the parks plan that was coming up. And it's really important that as we develop, we have and do create public parks. And it's important to have those facilities that are available within a certain mile of radius, and the things that he's talking about for doing 25-acre ones and above. But the fact of the matter, and what doesn't get put into the park plans that get developed by the cities and state and county, is that they don't take into account recreational and opportunities that are within subdivisions or church areas or schools and that kind of stuff. So those things that create, if we don't build it into our subdivisions as we are coming along, we need to do that. Build it in as we build it out is what I'm trying to head towards. And if you look at the two examples there, you'll just see the new plan has 162, and I only counted houses and rooftops on that, versus 74 rooftops that were there previously. And I'm imagining that what you see with all the green space on the old version of that, and this is for the stuff that's just south of the Midland, not the new idea for the businesses that they want to have along there, but you don't see any retention ponds in it. And I suspect, and somebody who's in the engineering and on staff can probably speak more to that, that it is the runoff. It's all of the rooftops side by side that create that runoff, that create the need for the retention ponds, which is not usable recreation space. So I just want to, emphasize all of that's really important, but people, as if you look at the national level and labor statistics, they only spend maybe 20 minutes of outdoor recreation time on their activities. You can't do that by getting to a public park that is farther away. It is where you live. That's where we're creating community and relationships and healthy human beings. And if we can just build better and create something in there where we have got usable recreation space and build it in as we build it out, we're just going to have a more prosperous and a happier community for the people that are coming in. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, very much, and without objection, we'll have your document entered into the record. Any other members of our audience that wish to address the commission on this item? While waiting to see if anyone changes their mind, anyone online that wishes to speak or provide documents of any kind? I'm seeing a no. I'll wait for confirmation.
We've received no emails.
Very good.
This time.
Ma'am, I see you coming to the podium. Good evening and welcome.
I'm Gloria Del Greco, and I live on Eagletown Road, but I want to, accept what she just said, Jen did, because if you don't include parks within these subdivisions, I live across the road from a very beautiful woods that backs up to a subdivision, and the beautiful people in that subdivision feel entitled to go into that woods, which doesn't belong to them, has no trespassing signs, create trails, tear down the no pressing signs, and make them into their little cabins and structures like that. And it's because there's nothing in the subdivision. And she's right. You need to put stuff in the subdivision, not at the back of it, so it backs up to these people's houses and yards, but in the middle of it. So this is, I was at that first meeting, and I know what they feel. And I also helped suggest that they move that trail into the inside of those retention ponds, because with it outside, it just encourages people to go into that woods, because it's very inviting. And I think you need to think clearly about that before you make your final judgment. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your comments. Anyone else in the audience wish to address this matter before I close the public hearing? All right. Seeing and hearing none, we will close this public hearing at 7:47 p.m. Mr. Domashewitz, if you would like to address those items you wish to address, the floor is yours.
This may not be in the order that you received them, but first, with regard to the number of homes and development on the real estate, the plan is currently envisioned under the existing zoning would allow for the construction of as many as 270 homes. We're adding 26 acres, and the maximum number of homes permitted on the real estate with the proposal is 296. So coincidentally, there's 26 more acres and 26 more homes planned for the real estate. That's under the conditions which exist today. With regard to the extension of Town Road, that last slide that I share with you is not a slide that I prepared. It's a slide that was provided by the city. I don't know if the city has a portal for public access to information regarding the extension of Town Road, but I would encourage those folks who have an interest in the specific location of Town Road, whether that's on their property or adjacent, and its impacts both from an environmental standpoint and a wetland impact standpoint, they would want to reach out to the Public Works Department and ask to communicate with the city engineer on those matters. I'm sure, as the city has in the past had informational sessions on different infrastructure improvements, that they'll have a session regarding Town Road at some point in the future. With regard to the comments from Mr. Hughes, he did correctly identify that the majority of the real estate that the creek exists on is off-site to the west on individual parcels. So we don't control that real estate, but again, are in a position to extend and modify the ordinance that would allow for the transition area there at the ownership of those other parcels. There was also a comment about the cooperation with regard to the movement of the trail. Mr. Rio is amenable to moving the trail to the east side of the, the west side of the creek and the east side of the adjacent lots. Mr. Raudebush, you'll see on the plan here, this is Mr. Raudebush's property. It's outside the limits of the legal description, outside the description, outside of the zoning request. We have, because it's surrounded on three sides by the development, illustrated it on our concept plan, what it might look like if it were developed in the future. That doesn't mean it has to be, doesn't mean it can be. That would be a decision for the future of the Plan Commission and the wishes of Mr. Raudebush. Lastly, this is the area plan for our development. It clearly illustrates that that parcel's outside of the area. So from a legal and zoning standpoint, we're not rezoning Mr. Raudebush's property. We're not including it on the exhibits that relate to land use or the area which is subject to the rezone. So that'll remain Ag AGSF1. There were also comments made about the impact for stormwater management and detention, those things that happen along Little Eagle Creek. If the zoning appears in front of the council and the rezone's approved and development proceeds, we would send out another notice in the paper to all the owners that received a copy of the notice regarding tonight's meeting. That would be of a development plan, and the development plan would be providing much detailed information regarding stormwater management and runoff, where the connections are to be made to the creek for the outfalls for those proposed detention ponds. Lastly, with regard to the 2007 exhibit, our firm was involved in the rezone of that request at the time. As I indicated earlier, that's a much more artistic, illustrative plan than the one that we have in front of you this evening. The one this evening is much more definitive, which is required today under your ordinance, that we provide that definitive plan. Stormwater management detention would still have to be provided at the same level. We're dealing with the same amount of real estate, similar amounts of streets and infrastructure to maintain and discharge into those ponds and manage them. They're just not shown on that plan. That wasn't a requirement in 2007. So with that, I'll conclude. Again, be glad to continue the dialogue with the Plan Commission and would be prepared to return back to the Plan Commission no sooner than your May workshop meeting as we begin to modify the ordinance to address comments we've heard tonight, as well as additional comments that the Plan Commission may share.
Thank you, sir. And we'll turn it to questions and comments from the commission. Mr. McCarty.
Wes, in advance, could you just pull back up the old ordinance, please? Just probably do it in an additional tab, and so that we have to go back and forth. But just off the bat, I agree with much of what has already been said. Unfortunately, this is just another skeleton in our closet that all we can really do is dress up. So as they're pulling up the old concept plan, I know it's hard to imagine, and this is where the confusion really comes from, but what is north of 32 in the ordinance? Oh, wrong one. It's that. No, one below it.
Right there.
There we go.
Yep.
Okay, so it's hard to conceptualize, but what Mr. Drabashewicz is talking about, of what they're currently permitted to do today, is the combination of everything that's south of State Road 32 and north of State Road 32. What eliminated north of State Road 32 was the schools coming in and wanting to get that zone for middle school, transportation, et cetera, everything that's going to be going out there. regardless, this PUD still exists as it was back in 2007 in terms of the number of units that are permitted to be built on the site. So again, peeling back the layers, they are permitted to build the 270, say-ish lots today south of State Road 32. So unfortunately, as much as I do like this old rendering, it's kind of irrelevant because they can build the 270 lots, which is not that today.
I want to be clear. The 270 dwellings I'm talking about were authorized under the existing ordinance for area only south of State Road 32. The area north of State Road 32 authorized 300 multifamily dwellings as well as the half million square foot of office and commercial. So it's even to a greater extent of what you're what you're speaking about. But I wanted the public to understand, and the rest of the Planning Commission, authorization today is for 270 on the area exclusively south of State Road 32, not including the 26 additional acres. When we add the 26 additional acres, we're asking for authorization to do 296, which is effectively adding one more house for every acre that's being added to the overall development. And that's predominantly seen in the construction of the townhomes along State Road 32, where the current ordinance authorizes the development of 100 that could be constructed today. We're asking for authorization for what's shown on the plan as 124. Gotcha. And actually it'll be a few less because it's not including the Routed Bush parcel, which may have a dozen or so that were illustrated on there. So I heard what you were saying, and I thought you meant the entire 250 plus acres, including the school's ground, was authorized for that number. And in fact, it's just the area south of 32 where 270 are authorized today. We're asking for 26 more all day across the board south of State Road 32.
No, thank you, John. I appreciate that. See, the more we talk things out, the more you're able to learn stuff. So that further, sadly, illustrates the point that, yes, this was a conceptual, artistic rendering, but 270 lots could be built south of State Road 32, regardless, again, today. So that's where we're having our conundrum here, that what they're actually asking for is just the additional 26 lots per 26 acres.
And if I might, so this is the area that is part of the development today north of the Midland, and it illustrated townhome development. That's 100 townhomes illustrated there. The area that we're adding, not the Routed Bush parcel, but the additional 24 acres here over to this line. This was, as town roads swept, as I indicated, to the west and north, this was fourplexes at 4.5 homes per acre. That's no longer being considered. We're taking that and transitioning that in to the alley development, which would be on the south edge of the Midland, right in this vicinity. And the vicinity to the south, we're proposing what's shown on the plan is approximately 90 homes, where 74 were previously planned under the original development, so 16 additional lots. Again, this is a picture that was rendered in a different style and shows smaller lots in that space of the area. We're proposing lots that would be larger in that same vicinity, again, excluding the flood zone, which is not encumbered here as it wasn't in the original plan.
Thank you again. So if we could, Wes, go back to the current concept plan to just reiterate what was just said. The southernmost lots, that originally was, say, 70-ish, and you're putting 75, and you're putting, say, additional 20 there?
As shown, I think it's 92.
Yeah.
So approximately 18, 19 additional lots.
Yeah. So it's just, again, good to vocalize this to kind of help picture the area comparatively to what it was before, that, again, in actuality, south of State Road 32, regardless, it'd be 270 lots today. So where this is helping the old ordinance is, one, the additional commercial, of course, but then the additional restrictions on the commercial with the auto uses and limiting the fast food drive-through option, which is a complaint we hear all the time on State Road 32. And then I would say where we, again, unfortunately, actually really just have our control is, say, where the Little Eagle Creek Trail goes and a few other nuances here and there. And in addressing the Little Eagle Creek Trail, thank you, Gloria. You were referencing my neighborhood of the kids that go across into the woods. I see it all the time because I live on the Little Eagle Creek Trail. And it's unfortunate, but that's where, again, I agree with the residents of wanting to shift the trail to the side of the new proposed homes. For one, as someone's backyard backs up to the trail, I think that just adds an additional amenity for the residents. But then two, to their all point of it further creates this buffer to not go to the back of the existing neighbors. My only concern I would bring up with that, and just because, again, living on the trail with a pond also directly behind my house, the number one issue we have is the erosion. The erosion of just, you say the rain, but weather in general, it's really eroded between the trail and the pond. So whether you build that up or just whatever it is to prevent that in the future, because I know that can be a hazard. Looking at my notes real quick.
I think to address that issue, in the situation you're talking about, the trail is actually constructed within the floodplain. And here, the neon green line is the floodplain. And in either situation, we're proposing to put that trail outside of the flood zone. So it would be either on the back side of the lots or on the east side of the pond. But both situations, it would be outside of the flood zone, so wouldn't be subject to inundation in a storm event.
And then just the other issue that was brought up of providing the opportunity for the current residents to purchase the property, I would be in favor of that as well. So something else might pop up, but give the floor to the rest of my fellow commissioners.
Other comments from members of the commission? Dr. Keen?
I'm going to ask a couple of questions. One, are all the property owners along that tree line ready to buy the property? Because it seems to me like if they're not, then you're going to have some property where it goes back and others where it's not. And
If you look at the exhibit here, Dr. Keen, the two of the three owners that are right along this segment, Chad, his neighbor, and there's another property further to the north, and I apologize, I don't remember their name. We spoke to two of those three owners in detail at the last meeting and indicated to them that we would make the presentation this evening how we have. So they're aware of it, and I believe they're prepared to advance a discussion about obtaining title to that real estate.
okay. My other comment, I guess, is just simply historical. 2007 is when Westfield became a city, from a town to a city. The amount of developments that were coming before this town city was incredible, and people weren't keeping up on it. You know, I was sitting in a superintendent's seat, but I would tell you today, I would have no idea how a proposal like this far west ever got approved. And now we're having to deal with what was approved in 2007. My opinion, this is too dense for this particular area out there. But now we have to figure out how to make it the best we can out of whatever. But I just personally feel, John, this is too dense. And Paul, I feel it's too dense. I'd like to see it more green space and fewer dwellings, maybe larger dwellings. I'm not concerned about drainage or whatever. I know that the county will make sure that that's all taken care of and probably will do more than what you might want to do. But my gut level says this is the gateway to the rest of the West, and I want to see as large of homes, large sites as possible in this area. So that's just my gut level feeling on this development.
We are proposing lots that are larger in size than what's anticipated under the current ordinance in that space in the far south and west corner of the development. The owner of the real estate today that's not under contract, those additional parcels are under contract, but the owner of the area that's outlined in red, that's Brian Cardinal. Brian owns the real estate to the south. This is approximately 75 acres that's bound by Little Eagle Creek to the south. He's constructing his estate lot on that particular lot to the south of us. And to the west, there are a couple different owners, Eifert and I think Hank Walker owns this real estate to the west. This area is in that area designated for commercial development. Again, continuing along State Road 32, and the area to the south is designated for future residential development under the comp plan.
Mrs. Carlson?
Yeah, I have a comment. I agree with Dr. Keene. I think it's dense. I drive through Eagle Creek to Uptown Road to 32 all the time. So I'm kind of wondering about this unique wave of Town Road and how that's going to work. Is there going to be a bridge? I assume there's going to be a bridge over Eagle Creek, but is that going to displace additional properties to be able to get that Town Road through there to 32?
I'd like to show the Plan Commission again, this last exhibit that I showed you during our presentation. And let me preface it by saying I'm not messaging on behalf of the city. This is the alignment and the improvement that they're currently studying, and they shared with us. I don't believe it's a private document. It's available to the public. But this is north is to your right. This is 166th Street. The idea it would be for a roundabout at 166th and Town Road. You go north, you see Westgate here on the bottom end of the page. The road would shift. This is the current alignment of Town Road right here. You see this little neck right here? That would be a drive that would provide access to those lots that are on the west side of Town Road today. The elementary school is currently under construction, and the elementary school is right here on this parcel, approximately 25 acres in size. The road shifts to the east, crosses the creek via a bridge at a 90-degree angle. These two little nubs here represent the existing Little Eagle Creek Avenue that would tie into Town Road. Then you go further north, the idea being that the entrance into this development would be another roundabout. This west leg away from the flood zone here is that entrance on the south side of the Midland. The Midland is located right here. The road shifts back along its existing section line here, and you can see here drawn with the black lines, this is the area that the school is constructing, Town Road to the north side of 32, and there has not been, at least illustrated on that plan, an idea for what would either be a signalized intersection or a roundabout where Town Road connects to State Road 32. This segment of Town Road and crossing the creek has been part of the city's overall transportation plan for 30-plus years. Today, the city's examining construction of it due to the construction of the elementary school, which I just described, the middle school on the north side of State Road 32, and other development within the vicinity. The developer is not advancing that cause, that construction of Town Road in the way it's been illustrated, but responding to it because today the city's ready to make that investment. I understand that money is set aside for the investment. Design work is currently occurring. And the last we met with the city engineer, they were talking about a 2027 construction year with the potential of opening the roadway sometime shortly thereafter.
Okay, well, thank you. I mean, that explains that situation, but I do want to make sure there's nothing disruptive to the homeowners in that area.
There is one parcel that exists right here on the west side of Little Eagle Creek, right here as you cross the creek, where there would be the most impact. I can't tell you, and the city would be able to comment on this, as to whether or not they would have to be acquiring the entire parcel or just a portion of it that was outside the area of the home. Again, I don't message on behalf of the city. I'm trying to answer your question the best I can under those parameters.
No, thank you very much. But I do agree with Dr. Keene, it's too dense. I think we need to loosen it up a little bit and keep the trail closer to the new homes and away from the current homeowner or property owners.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. If the Planning Commission does have any specific questions about that alignment, we're happy to take those and share those with the city engineer and provide some direct feedback. But as John was saying, this has been studied and developed for quite a while. This alignment was actually contemplated back when Westgate was approved and platted, and the location of the bridge was carefully studied by Public Works to have the least amount of impact and the most cost-effective way, and the kind of the narrowest, most perpendicular portion along that creek. So just wanted to add that additional context, but we're happy to answer any additional questions if the Planning Commission were to have them.
Thank you, Weston. Other comments from members of the commission? Mr. Khan?
I just wanted to say thank you for working, and continuing to work with the neighbors on this. I think one of the things important for me is that the neighbors are able to purchase that property and that the trail is moved to the other side as well. I think that's an important point to make sure that they have the privacy, especially considering that that is private property. We want to protect them as much as we can, so that would be very much appreciated.
Mr. Bunkefist.
These are more just rhetorical questions as we gear up for workshop. More specific on the commercial front, which again, I know, as Victor has very well pointed out, we've inherited something we can't really change. But just as we're looking at the land use map as ingrained in the comprehensive plan, understanding and acknowledging a new comprehensive plan is underway, I'd be curious to hear more at the next meeting, whatever you can provide on just how the frontage is contemplated, understanding it's part of the 32 overlay. This is going to eventually transition to a contemplated village to the west, and so like seas of parking as contemplated for Area D from the initial PUD for like big box maybe isn't the most ideal 32 frontage as a transition piece. So again, inherited, understood, hard to comment right now, but maybe at the workshop just a little more detail on the perceived commercial as you've mentioned and just how that may lay out, understanding it's a cartoon and it'll change a few times, but just understanding that in a little broader detail would be appreciated.
And just on, sorry to jump back in, but on that topic of inheriting, just to hit home, for those of us that has said that this proposal is too dense, understanding that today, they're, just to hit it home, they're allowed to build the 270, so we're looking at the additional 26 lots. What does too dense, less dense look like in comparative to what they're allowed to permitted to be built versus what is within our control today? So I just wanted to throw that back out there.
Mr. Bunkefist.
Yeah, quick follow-up. You had mentioned as well, and specifically called out the one fueling station as a permitted use in Area D. Was that contemplated in the 2007 revision? Was that a permitted use as well for that area? Do you recall?
It is
Okay.
permitted use and unrestricted.
Perfect, thank you.
Mr. Horkay.
Thank you. I don't have a lot to add that's different. The density, I can understand in this site why it might be somebody's plan to present something like this. It's certainly different than what was approved back in 2007. When I was a councilman, I was actually one of two on the 5-2 vote that approved this. I didn't vote against it because I just thought it was too early, was the main reason that I knew that we would be having a do-over on this, and maybe even a do-over to the do-over, because it was just so far out and that we couldn't possibly conceive. I did like the inclusion of a conservation mindset design to the part that we are now talking about, although I was kind of wrestling with that. When I sit up here, I look at a lot of things on the screen in front of me, and when I look at the GIS map, I look at what is actually on the property, and while there is about 20 feet of grade difference from east to west, it's all been an agricultural use. When you think of a conservation subdivision, at least I do anyway, I picture something that actually is going someplace where there's water and trees and even greater undulation than what's on this site here. So it's almost like you were having to create the conservation subdivision to kind of save things that you're putting in, not already having them there. So I was a little bit torn on that. I still think that we need to find some places where we've got the right kind of property and bring somebody in, hopefully to develop them, being context sensitive to that. So while it'd be wonderful if maybe somehow that got back into this, if it doesn't, which it doesn't sound like it is in the cards right now anyway, that doesn't bother me as much as just kind of working through more of the details that will flesh out over the next 6 weeks till it's time for the workshop meeting.
Thank you. Any other comments from my fellow commissioners? Seeing and hearing none, I feel like if I don't say anything, I'd be a combo breaker because everyone else has. But I don't think anything has been said that I don't agree with in conversation. And we look forward to having you May at the earliest. But if you have any closing comments, or are you good to go?
No, and thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much, sir. For those in the audience, I know this, while we're transitioning to the next item, this will be up for workshop. There's no more opportunity for verbal public comment, but if you have comments along the way, you can make that email at planners@westfield.gov, and we'll continue to see that through the process. Feel free to do so You're welcome to come to the workshop. It's a little tighter space. Again, there's no public comment there, but you're welcome to continue to follow along and give us comments along the way via email. Thank you very much. Moving on to our next public hearing item, 2504-PUD-05, Maple Knoll Planned Unit Development, Amendment 9. Lauren Gillingham Teague. Good evening.
Hi. Let's give the audience a couple minutes to kind of filter out.
Very good.
It's Gillingham Teague now, actually.
Did I just said that?
Oh, did you?
I
Sorry.
did.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm really. Usually it's the council, actually, but they've gotten better.
Well, you can tell them that I got
Strike
it right.
from the record. Strike from the record.
Strike
Thank
from
you.
the record.
Yeah.
How's your beverage?
It's loud. That's what
Should I
get for-
recess the record for other comments and questions about her beverage? Okay.
Yeah, no, I think I scared myself by opening it. All right.
Okay.
I think I'll start if that's good with
Please
you
do.
guys.
Good evening.
All right. For the record, Lauren Gillingham Teague with the Community Development Department. Tonight is the public hearing. Oh, I'm supposed to talk straight into this now. Tonight is the public hearing for an amendment to the mixed-use district of the Maple Knoll PUD ordinance, specific to this site, generally located at the northeast corner of Spring Mill Road and Tricia Lane, for a proposed pet supply store. The amendment proposes to modify use standards to permit the pet store use and modify applicable sign standards to bring them closer to what is permitted under our current UDO. Over the last 5 hours, there have been a couple revisions to this ordinance, a lot more action than is usually at this stage of things. The ordinance is in Acrobat. There we go. Yes. So you saw one of these. I managed to send it to you guys. So the first was to strike the request for an internally illuminated sign after the reception at pre-council. The applicant agreed to gooseneck lighting or reverse channel backlighting in lieu of that. That's more in keeping with the Maple Knoll PUD and the wall sign that is at the Farmers Bank located just north of this site. The second item, which you have not seen, was to strike the language regarding the sales of cats and dogs. At the advice of legal informed us that there are some uncertainties in the state code about whether or not municipalities can actually restrict the retail sale of dogs. That's included in the ordinance they passed last year about puppy mills and all of that stuff. I'm sure that Mr. Neal could explain that. I don't want to. You don't want to. So yes, just due to those uncertainties, legal has asked very nicely that is taken out of the ordinance and is instead a voluntary annexation of the applicant. So they will be submitting a voluntary, did I say annexation? Wow, okay. You know what I meant. A voluntary commitment. That is, we have a copy of it, a draft version of it. They will be recording this with zoning approval. And this is binding on successors, assignees, grantees, future owners of the property. To clarify, Pet Supplies Plus, they do not sell dogs and cats, but this was something that was important to staff and some members of the Planning Commission to kind of try to prevent a future user that might be interested in the site that may not have the same, ethical qualms. So yes, I have not received any public comments related to this item, and if no concerns are raised, I request the Planning Commission waive the April 21st workshop discussion and forward a recommendation this evening. Matt Skelton is here to elaborate on anything I've missed. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Skelton, good evening and welcome.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Matt Skelton with Churchill and Antrim with offices at 116 North Union Street here in town. With me this evening is my colleague Lisa Claghorn with Churchill and Antrim, and also client Bill Gutrich, owner of Pet Supplies Plus. Lauren did an outstanding job of covering everything, so I am not going to duplicate what she has said. I would just highlight the limitations that are inserted within the PUD that is before you. Basically lock in the maximum height at exactly what the Farmers Bank sign is immediately north of us, so there's some continuity there. And then also the wall sign formula, well, the wall sign maximum in the PUD that's before you is exactly what would be the result under your existing UDO standards. Actually, under your today's UDO standards, we would even be provided more signage than we're even proposing. So we've tried to be conservative. So with that, we're happy to respond to any questions that you have either now or after the hearing, and would very much appreciate a positive recommendation if you are so inclined. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Skelton. Any comments or questions before we move into the public hearing? Seeing and hearing none, we are going to open the public hearing. Again, if you are here to comment on this amendment, come and sign up there at the rostrum and come to the podium. We have 3 minutes. Those online, planners at westfield.in.gov. I am now opening the public hearing at 8:21 p.m. Anybody online for this item?
No emails.
Seeing and hearing none, this public hearing is also closed at 8:21 p.m. Nothing to address, Mr. Skelton. Questions, Mr. McCarty?
Yeah. Just some further clarification regarding the commitment with the no dog and cat sales, since we're striking that line out. And just for transparency with everyone, that was something that I had asked for, so that way we don't get into an issue down the line, whether it's not Pet Supplies Plus or whatever, trying to just protect that. So
You just want some clarification?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, how that works.
So
Is it
there-
like a variance request then if someone comes in, or?
Well, so the reason this is an issue is because there's a state law that says municipalities can't prohibit the sale of dogs, except with some caveats. And so rather than putting it in the form of a law that is a city regulation, if it's a voluntary commitment on the developer's behalf or on the owner's behalf, I mean, they can commit to whatever they want, right? I mean, they're not limited the same way.
So is it something then follows the land regardless
does.
of who's the owner? Oh, okay,
does.
perfect, thank you.
It does. Sorry, I wasn't clear on your question.
Well, I wasn't clear either, so that's fine.
And just so you know, I mean, for Pet Supplies Plus anyway, that would be a violation of their franchise agreement. They wouldn't be able to be a Pet Supplies Plus.
Yeah.
They do, however, this was pointed out at council, hold periodic adoption events with the Humane Society, and they do have a little habitat where they keep a couple of adoptive kittens, but all the transactional type stuff is between the Humane Society.
Yeah, no, for sure, that's greatly appreciated. Yep. So, awesome, thank you.
You'll have to forgive me. My wife, for our cat, does all of the cat item shopping, so she's very happy about this, by the way, being so close to our home. Does Pet Supplies Plus sell other non-cat and dog animals, fish,
They do.
gerbils, birds?
If you'd like a tetra or a small reptile.
No. Okay, so that there will still be some sale, just not cats and dogs because of the I believe relatively new law. I don't want to get into that because that's what I do every day, but on legislation.
The middle of last year, that's.
Yeah, so it was relatively new to that prohibition. So, okay, that was my only question, was to clarify that there were still going to be some animal sales, just we're saying we're not going to do cats and dogs for the sake of simplicity other than what has to come, or will come with Humane Society activity.
Correct.
Got it. Other members of the commission? Mr. Horke.
When I looked at the council meeting, online. I wasn't at the meeting. I think that's where I saw it. Is there an elevation, something that shows us the proposed character of the building? There's nothing on our agenda.
No, we put together a building elevation to just illustrate a structure that would comply with the ordinance, but the architect hasn't really finished design or anything. We have some preliminary designs. We got some initial feedback, and we're kind of pricing out some alternatives that would be a little bit different look.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yep.
This had been in front of a different group, the Spring Mill Station Task Group, numerous times where there was a desire to try to get a site on the west part of that development or that whole overall area, but the architectural standards were kind of challenging. So I was just wondering if there was anything that was similar to what we'd already seen that might be available. If there's not, that's fine.
There's
just
not.
Curious. Not sure I have anything else to add just now, so we'll carry on.
Very good. Other members of the commission? Seeing and hearing none, I believe the staff and petitioner has requested us to review whether we should waive the workshop and suspend the rules. Is there a pleasure of the board?
Motion to suspend the rules and skip the workshop?
Motion by Mr. Cardy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Khan. Any further discussion? Staff, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Keen?
Yes.
Ms. Carlson?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard? Or, I'm sorry, he's absent. Mr. Bungerfist?
Yes.
Mr. Horke?
Yes.
And Mr. Khan?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion carries. Rules are suspended and workshop is waived. Pleasure of the board on recommendation to City Council.
Make a favorable recommendation?
Motion by Mr. McCarty. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Khan. Just rolling with the oldies. Any further discussion? Hi.
Oh, hi, I'm just showing up here.
Thank you for pointing that out.
So, we talked about this a little bit. This is different. The ordinance in front of you is not the ordinance on the agenda. I don't know if that's something you have to add to the motion.
Favorable recommendation for the revised ordinance as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second has been revised.
Before I forget to say everything.
Any further discussion? Anyone else want to come to the podium? All right, if you would please, staff, call the roll.
Ms. Carlson?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Bungerfist?
Yes.
Mr. Horke?
Yes.
Mr. Khan?
Yes.
And Dr. Keen?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Congratulations. Thank you very much. And we will see you next time around.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see about that. Next item on the agenda is 2504-PUD-06 Element Hotel at the Chatham Commons Plan Unit Development PUD Amendment 1. We'll turn to staff for a presentation.
Yep, so thank you, President. I'll be filling in for Dane this evening as he's not here. So good evening, members of the Commission. For the record, Weston Rogers with the Community Development Department. The item before you this evening is the first proposed amendment to the Chatham Commons PUD, specific to a 2.7 acre parcel located north of 191st Street and west of US Highway 31. It's more specifically immediately southwest of the existing Spring Hill Suites Hotel. The sole purpose of this amendment is to modify the architectural standards so that the character exhibits included in the proposed amendment for an Element Hotel apply for the architecture rather than the State Highway 32 overlay standards. Representatives on behalf of the development are present this evening to provide a brief presentation, after which they're available for questions. After the public hearing, if the Plan Commission is satisfied with the proposal, staff recommends waiving the workshop for this item and sending a recommendation to the City Council. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Petitioner, for presentation. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, President Neal, members of the commission. Joe Calderon, 11 South Meridian, Indianapolis. I represent Westfield LLC. With me tonight, Kelly Mulder and May Siffin. I think we had a little PowerPoint that we sent today. Can you pull that up? We're not going to belabor this very long at all. The only reason we even put together a PowerPoint because there were some elevation modifications following TAC, and we wanted to make sure that you, as the recommending body, saw the latest. Okay. So, just to reiterate, and this is the only time you get to hear the lawyer on this part, which is good, right? The text amendment that we're making for Chatham Commons only relates to what will be Lot 8, which is part of a replat. So we're not opening up the whole PUD to amend everything. It just applies to the parcel that the proposed Element Hotel will be placed upon. So that in itself should give you comfort that we're not changing the whole development, just Lot 8. So, and as Weston had mentioned, we're simply essentially subbing in character exhibits that were in the existing 2017 version of the ordinance with the proposed hotel. There were some nuances in the 2017 version that related to architectural treatment that was a lot more traditional in terms of character. The Element Hotel is part of Marriott. It kind of matches up brand-wise with the existing, and it's a more modern feel, which you probably saw in the staff report. So we just wanted to emphasize that we're just limiting it to this lot and subbing in characters for the proposed hotel. I'll let Kelly Mulder step up and just run through a couple of the design elements. And again, we would really appreciate a positive recommendation tonight and bypassing workshop. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks, Joe. My name is Kelly Mulder, 1095 Chatham Hills Boulevard. I'm with KPM Hotel Group. We're excited to be back in front of you guys. We are the owners of Spring Hill Suites, so this would be our second Marriott that we'll be bringing to Westfield. Part of that is why we're so excited, because it's really creating a Marriott campus that's here that can get up to about 300 rooms. We just see that a lot of synergies that's going to happen between the proximity between the two. And again, I'll talk a little bit about the design that's coming up, but just a little bit on the brand too. And I won't belabor this too much, but just so you know, so it is an extended stay product. It will be the first extended stay product in Westfield. It's a nice differentiation between the Spring Hill, which is an all suites. What it really means by being extended stay is that there's like a small, more modern, streamlined kitchenette in each one of these. I think there is a couple of views of this. Yeah, that's just little captures. Again, every one of the rooms has that, and it makes it really versatile. So if it's a family that's coming in that may need to have some kids, cook a little bit of something, or traditionally extended stay would have the kitchenette for someone that comes in to work in Westfield that has to stay there for weeks at a time. They do have the option to make something that's in there. So it's a really nice mix to bring into Westfield, and I think it's really going to help us capture more business to bring people to come stay and go to the restaurants and everything else that's around here. So that's a little bit about the brand. They also have a wellness concept. We really stepped into that because we're by Grand Park, but it just really is going to play nicely, I think, with the people that come in. And let me back up to the key count. So it's 144 keys. It would be 6 stories. The official name is Element by Westin by Marriott. It's a lot of names, but the Westin part of that is what's kind of gives them that step into the wellness zone. So what else are we going to do? We're going to have amenities that are in the back. I think it shows a little bit about here, but we're going to do a couple other things that are different. We're going to have a pool on the backside that's going to be interesting because I don't do that as much anymore. It'll be an outdoor pool. We'll have amenities around that, like some turf zones so that we can have an outdoor yoga session in the morning, or the kids that are there can play around in that. also areas of seating, fire pits, so really kind of pump up the backyard for people to stay there. We spent a lot of time in the orientation of this. As you can see, the north, there's a detention pond, and so we wanted to look into the nature that's to the north. Cool Creek is there, the detention pond. There's a row of natural trees. We're staying everything out of the floodplain at this point. We dealt with that once before. We don't want to touch that. And then just the design-wise and the orientation, you see it's kind of an L. We did that purposely not only to, again, look to the north as much as possible, but sort of surround that amenity space that I was talking about, so that the rooms can look down and have that view. And then also proximity of the two lobby spaces. So the way we designed the Spring Hill is also custom prototype, as we like to say, because we pretty much tweak everything that we get to customize it to the site. And this one, we did the same. Usually they put the lobby in the middle. We put it over to the side, again, to take advantage of the views and the pond. So in this one, we also put the lobby on the right-hand side of this so that the two can really talk to each other. People can go back and forth. We also have looked at sort of the drop-off situation and made that as comfortable as possible. Just a little bit on the architecture. So we wanted to create something that was elegant, sleek, sophisticated. We stumbled upon this little bit darker palette that really we're drawn to, a little bit more modern that you're starting to see nowadays. Again, I can go through some of the slides. This is on the north side. We'll sort of start there. It's predominantly brick. It's a black brick. But when I say black, it's going to have a lot of variations to the black, different sheens, different colors. So you're still going to feel that variation, even though it's, quote, on black. And then sometimes it's hard to show that in renderings. It starts to come out a lot more when we get the built environment. The little bit more gray color is all the brick that you see that goes from the top all the way to the bottom. We are using larger windows than typical, so it's pretty much floor-to-ceiling windows. That's going to be in the guest rooms. We'll have a little bit of accent of a black hardy board that's next to the windows. And then really to soften it, we started to use these wood tones and palettes that you start to see around the building. This is a great slide for when you're driving in. Again, you can start to feel the proximity between the two facilities. So what we wanted to do was take the architectural element that's on that southeast corner and make that the tallest element, probably better shown in this. And then have that be the signage, so that faces south and it faces east. And we wanted to do something a little different on that element, again, because we thought it'd be the most prominent as you see it coming in. So that's where we're using an architectural metal panel. It's going to have a little variation to it as far as in and out. So you're going to get some texture, some shadow lines there to it. Although it's, again, a little hard to see in the rendering, there's about 3 different tones of black and grays that are in there that you start to feel. And we did some verticality that's to it in a different pattern. So again, I think you really pick up that's different on the corner. Glass, we use a lot of that in the first level. You see in that corner is where our fitness room is. On the back side, the lobby is actually 2 stories. That will be all glass that looks back onto the amenity center. It's a little hard to see here, but that volume right there goes up 2. And then again, the amenity center would be into the back. So without going into too much more, I'm happy to answer any other questions that you guys might have, really about anything, but I'll turn it back to you. Thank you.
Very good. Any questions on the front end before we go to the public hearing? Seeing and hearing none. We are going to open the public hearing. Again, if you are here to speak on this matter, you can come to the dais, sign up, and you can come to the podium and speak for 3 minutes. The planners at westfield.in.gov, for those who are online, we'll open the public hearing at 8:38. Anything online?
No emails.
Very good. I'm going to close this public hearing at the same time it opened, 8:38. Questions from the commission? Mr. Horke.
Thrilled to have you. Been waiting for you for a long time. Originally, this was pitched to be a residence and still a long-term extended stay. This product seems a lot cooler, so not a problem with that change. But I'm wondering, it was also pitched to be on a site along 31, and maybe this is more for staff. This site in the PUD, when it was approved, if I'm not mistaken, oddly limited everything to a single story. I think 6 is fine. I never understand why we put limitations on height on some things. Doesn't seem like, especially a site like this, where you could see something like this, there'd be any reason to have a limitation. Did that get looked at all? I'm fine with it happening. I think it makes a lot of sense to kind of package these things in the corner and take advantage of the detention that's north of it to create a much nicer outdoor vibe than being along a freeway. But I'm just wondering, is there anything further that needs to be I dotted or T crossed?
Well, he's looking that up. Our interpretation, we looked at it, is specifically for a hotel. In the PUD, there is no height restriction. So,
Okay, and I think I agree on that.
yeah.
But the site that this one is proposed to go on, Area B or 2 or whatever it was called, had indicated, I thought, a one-story limit, or did I just not look at it closely enough to see that if a hotel went in that area, that one-story limitation would be an A?
Ryan, it's 82B if you haven't found it yet in the initial PUD.
Yeah, so we have the ordinance pulled up right now. This property would be located in District 2. And District 2 is currently limited to one story per this ordinance. The existing ordinance, I should say.
Which is what I'm asking about. So if we need to propose something that said, hey, let's let 6 stories go there at whatever the number of feet is that we need, I'd be happy to do that. I just want to make sure we get it right.
And further questions, if we do make that amendment, how do we do it appropriately to just grant that to this hotel and not the entirety of District 2?
Right.
So this PUD amendment request would have a real estate description associated with it.
Perfect.
We can check that to see if that, does the real estate description just include the hotel site or all of District 2?
Yeah, just the hotel site will be its own plat.
Oh, okay.
If you read the next one, the structure taller than maybe construction and outline 1.
You're correct. It says minimum. I'm sorry. It's a little hard to read. Thank you for that.
Thank you for that catch.
Yeah. Yep, so just to confirm, the existing ordinance in District 2 just lists a minimum building height of 1 story.
Can we get confirmation on what outlet lot 1 is in that PUD? Because the maximum underneath it then establishes.
Two stories? Yeah.
Let me go back to it. It shall not be taller than 2 stories.
Oh,
So
tall.
yes.
So we want to confirm that outlot 1 is not part of that district.
We have 2 former councilmen on this board. Can you tell us what outlot 1 is off the top of your head?
Come on, Bob.
I've slept.
Meticulous notes of every vote you make.
I've slept since we did this, and when I did some prep for this meeting, I was actually looking at it pretty late at night.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So I gotta admit, maybe I didn't read it as closely, but
So
No,
I want to
it's-
make sure I answer your question. So what you see here is the description of the boundaries of this project.
Mhm.
What you see here is all located in District 2. Was there another question that you
Yeah,
had?
where is outlot 1?
Outlot 1?
So if you go below 82B, it says maximum can be no more than 2 for outlot 1. I would assume that's probably the corner of 191 and 31, but I cannot read the map.
It might be along Union, too.
Could be along Union.
Yeah.
Frontage of Union.
Frontage Road, yeah.
I would assume probably like sight line.
We just want to make sure we do it right.
Yeah.
Vegas knows. By the way, have you-
While you are figuring this out, I do think it's a wonderful addition to Westfield, and I love the idea that there's amenity areas and pools and things like that for the kids to play on, because it's going to be a grand park attraction. That's just my.
Mr. President, I'd like to add, while they're working on that, is that okay?
Please.
Okay. I also wanted to agree with my colleague that it's going to be a great addition, mainly not only because of the aesthetic, but Also, we're trying to solve a lot for Grand Park and Grand Universe, and there's going to be a lot of things coming in for those areas. And even right now with the teams that are coming in, they're having a tough time finding places to be at. And so I think this may be one of the answers that we're looking for the city. So really appreciate what you guys are doing. Heading up that effort really means a lot, and I think it's going to mean a lot to the Grand Park and Grand Universe as well. So thank you for that.
Well, I think to your point with the extended stays and when you're here for tournaments and things, I got family that comes from Northwest Indiana that play softball and stuff all the time, and they usually stay at our house because it's cost prohibitive, maybe not to stay, but to eat.
Right.
Sometimes. And not everybody's in a position, maybe they want to go out once. right,
Absolutely.
Or whatever. I would encourage them to go out all the time because we want tax dollars in Westfield. But knowing that that's not the reality for everybody, this could be a great solution to
And
that.
they're going to bring in a lot of special use for that Grand Universe too. A lot of experts coming in that are going to need a place to be at. So we
Mr.
appreciate it.
Rogers.
Yes, so we were able to confirm that Lot 1 is the daycare facility within this PUD district, so we should be,
So to clarify then, no amendment to the amendment is needed.
that would be correct.
Thank you. Further questions from commissioners?
I'm going to turn my microphone back off. I don't want to screw anything up.
You didn't. That was a good question. You saw what it caused. Everybody confirmed. I do have one question.
I don't want to lengthen the meeting too much. 'Cause
No, we're.
tip-off is in 5 minutes.
Sorry, man. It's not going to happen. I just want to confirm, so one thing that I've seen with older campuses of hotels is a lot of times there's not a safe way to get from one building to the other, like a dedicated sidewalk. I think I see that there is a sidewalk stub on the southwest corner, well, not technically southwest corner, it's on the west side of the road, but southwest of the hotel. Of the existing hotel, would I assume that you would connect to that to allow people, if the idea is to exchange from one hotel to the other, because, yeah. Okay, it is there.
Yeah, there's.
Is it?
there's
No. Oh,
There's a crosswalk that goes over between the two, that's sort of there right now, that would turn back in. But I gotta tell you, it's a sort of a dead-end road, if that makes sense.
It
It's
is.
pretty much like you're in a parking lot at that point.
Correct.
Because the only people that are coming there are going to the Spring Hill at this point. And the Element, they'll probably turn in actually even before that to get into that. So it's not a heavily trafficked place, but again, I think with the proximity, we definitely have the sidewalks when you get back to the other side. And we're really not even parking on that south side, as you can see. We're keeping the parking for the Element on the.
well, and dollars to donuts, I mean, I would walk in the street anyway, because it's the shortest distance from one to the other if I was doing it. But for those that are cognizant, I have a 2-year-old son, so I just assume that everything should be safe forevermore. To make sure that there is a safe walk path between the two, if the idea, and this is only going to become busier with both hotels and other items that are going to come in this area. My preference would be that there is some sort of safe connector from your property across that road. Again, right now, you're right, chances are nothing's going to happen. But this is only going to get busier. You're going to get people who come in here and turn around. You're going to get all kinds of things. And safety is, so right where you have your cursor.
Yeah.
And then making sure that there's a sidewalk that goes down to your property, even if it's in your parking lot. I mean, there's nothing you can certainly do about that, but ensuring that there's a safe crossing of that street.
Can anyone move that to the right a little bit? So there is the crosswalk that goes here.
Yep.
And then one that goes here, and a sidewalk that comes down.
Okay.
And then the sidewalk
Beautiful.
crosses there.
I didn't look in that much detail in preparation for this meeting, so that was my fault.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Perfect. Other questions from commissioners? I do believe the petitioner and staff have requested a waiving of the workshop of this meeting. What is the pleasure of the board?
Just before that, one quick question.
Sorry,
for
Mr.
clarity.
McCarty.
No, you're fine, because I'm going to lead into that. But if this were to go forward, don't want to put the cart before the horse, but would this be at our next council meeting then for adoption consideration, or just a future council meeting, next council meeting? Okay. All right, motion to forego the workshop meeting?
Motion by Mr. McCarty. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bunkefist. Any further discussion? Staff, would you please call the roll?
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Bugafist?
Yes.
Mr. Horke?
Yes.
Mr. Khan?
Yes.
Dr. Keen?
Yes.
And Ms. Carlson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Rules are suspended. There's their pleasure of the board on recommendation.
Motion to send a positive recommendation to council?
Motion by Mr. McCarty. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm going to give it to Mrs. Carlson.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any further discussion? Staff, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Bunkerfist?
Yes.
Mr. Horke?
Yes.
Mr. Khan?
Yes.
Dr. Keen?
Yes.
Ms. Carlson?
Yes.
And Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Approved. Thank you very much, and we look forward to your development. Good luck. Last public hearing item in our public hearing orama is 2504-PUD-08, the Grand Park Village Planned Unit Development Amendment 6. We will turn this over to, looks like, who got it this time? Weston? All right. Mr. Rogers.
Yep, so filling in for Dane Crabtree again this evening. So good evening, members of the commission. For the record, Weston Rogers with the Community Development Department. The item before you this evening is an amendment to the Grand Park Village PUD, specific to the existing bike hub building located at the northwest corner of the roundabout at John Dipple Boulevard and Wheeler Road. The sole purpose of this amendment is to add additional permitted commercial uses that may be operated out of the bike hub building and to remove the requirement that 1,000 square feet be set aside as a bike hub, which is not defined within the Grand Park Village PUD. As currently written, the only uses permitted to operate out of the bike hub building are bike parking, bike lounge, bike repair, convenient snack store, coffee shop, ice cream shop, and pop-up shop. A list of additional uses, which have been evaluated and agreed upon by community development staff and the petitioner, are proposed within this PUD amendment. With that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Domashewicz, bring us home.
Thank you. For the record, John Dobashewicz, Nelson Frankenberger, we represent the applicant TWG. Grant Deaton with their office is available for any questions, as am I. In an effort to conclude the meeting, I'll trim down my presentation to no more than 12 minutes. And with that said, I apologize. This site was zoned in 2013. It was amended 2 years ago to allow for the construction of the apartment community, I think. And since that time, they've worked diligently to find an occupant that is more retail-oriented, as the uses would describe bike-related. But this really isn't a location. You saw from the aerial map, there's not a lot of retail in the vicinity. They have a tenant that would like to occupy the building in May. Leave it up to that one, if you could back up there. So there's the roundabout, John Dipple to the north and east, and Wheeler Road to the opposite intersection. It's a yoga and Pilates studio. It would occupy the full building. A use like that is going to be a little bit more compatible. I think once the city gets underway with its plans for Grand Park and the area south of that, you're going to see more of the retail associated type of uses. But again, we're zoned 12 years ago. We came back for the amendment and throttled down and decided this was the location for that use, but it really hasn't materialized, and the owner would like to avail itself to those uses staff felt were appropriate in addition to the ones restricted today. So that's where we're at. We would ask for the Plan Commission to consider suspending and not sending to committee, but making its recommendation this evening in the event there aren't any additional questions that we would otherwise address at committee. So with that, I'll conclude.
Thank you very much. Any questions on the front end? Seeing and hearing none, we will open the public hearing. If you're here to speak about this, come to the dais, sign up, come speak. Open the public hearing at 8:53. Anybody online? Anyone in the room?
We have no one signed up right now.
Anyone here?
Check the
Okay.
email.
Seeing and hearing none, we are closing this public hearing at 8:53. Would you like to address any questions? You don't have any yet. Questions from commissioners, comments, concerns?
I'll just say,
Mr. McCarty.
what I did at council that, or for transparency, I did not support this proposal when it first came through APC when I was just on APC. But now adding the additional uses here, it does not really impact the rest of the development, which was what I was not for. So this is fine.
Very good. Any further comments or questions? Staff and the petitioner have asked for a suspension of the rules to waive the workshop. What is the pleasure of the board?
Can I
Sorry.
offer 2 cents worth?
Yes,
again?
sir. Forgive me.
It was helpful to hear that there's an actual user that is on the hook to occupy the entirety of the building. And if that's a good operator and they can take the whole building, I don't think I have a problem with that, because that sort of fits with what we're hoping for there. Honestly, though, I'd prefer not to approve however number of bullet points in the listing here of the possible other uses. I would think the first 4 makes sense: office, professional, health, fitness, and exercise, but you've got restaurant of one type, restaurant of another type. But all the rest of them, do we really need to have them out there for who knows what might happen 5 years from now? My initial instinct was, are we jumping into this a little too fast? But if there's actually a user, I'm fine with that. But I just think we've got way too many uses that are being added to what we expected to be something that would be out of the first 4 bullet points.
We work diligently with staff, and I know Dane's not here tonight, he can't defend himself necessarily. But staff felt like this list of uses were appropriate for the site. What I would ask is, I would ask for the favor recommendation of the Plan Commission this evening to council, and if that went along with a concern registered about those particular uses, we can circulate with council before their meeting and determine whether or not they have a concern about those. I don't want to forego bringing back to them the ordinance that we discussed with them in the event that there's solidarity, if you will, amongst the Plan Commission about that particular issue. I'd turn another direction. But
Yep.
Mr. Khan, please.
Sorry, thank you,
Oh, it's
Mr.
okay.
President. I actually, take the viewpoint that I think more options is better. I think that, I can see a use for every single one of these items in that particular location. So I'm actually in favor of having more options, because it is hard to get tenants for various buildings that make sense with the residents around them. So for me, I'm respectfully, actually voicing the other side of this, saying that I think that it's a good thing.
Mr. Bunkefist.
Hearing both sides of it, I think, quickly going through the inventory of multifamily inventory in Westfield, there's not a lot of retail juxtaposed with multifamily in Westfield just yet. And I feel like I've pictured this separate building as if it were the first floor of that apartment, what uses would be merited. And Omar, to your point, I think, I can think of numerous apartment buildings in our surrounding area, not specifically our city, that has each of these uses in some capacity underneath them. So echoing your sentiment, I am in favor of a few more options.
Mr. McCarty.
Back to me. One question and then just kind of a statement. How many parking spots are dedicated to this particular building?
this site has 2+. It's got a minimum of 2 for across the whole development, where it's atypical of multifamily within Westfield's jurisdiction. The developer at the time was asked to stick to that 2.0 standard. Most are developed between 1.5 and 1.7 parking spaces per dwelling. So we're about 50 to 60 spaces over that, which is more than enough to accommodate the uses that would be occupied in this building. Okay. Appreciate the question. We did prepare in advance for that particular question.
Yeah, no, it's just something that came to mind as we're talking about the uses, because, for instance, barbershop pops out, barbershop 32 over here that I go to. The parking lot isn't quite as big as it needs to be, and so people say park on the street or whatever. So it's just accounting for possible potential uses in the future. But if that's accounted for, then it is what it is. And I would just also add that in terms of overall uses, unfortunately, right across the street, we're going to have a gas station. So it's kind of neither here nor there anymore with the uses, because everything's just kind of opened up.
Is that this block?
Yeah.
Was unaware of that.
So, yeah.
Well, I, for one, wouldn't like to see a barber shop because I have no use for it. But Mrs. Car, oh,
Sorry, just for the record, the gas station is something that was permitted by use with the original PUD. It's not something that we had control over. It's just, it is what it is, so.
Mrs. Carlson, I saw your hand on the microphone.
Oh, I just think it doesn't really operate as a retail location. I mean, I don't care what it's used for. I think it's a great location. It's a good-looking building. But it seems like it's more office-oriented and professional-oriented than it would be a retail location. Just because I have a retail location and I get no foot traffic. And I'm in a very popular place, so that's just my thoughts. I don't know.
That is
if-
one of the uses that we're asking for authorization to have in the future.
Yeah.
It's just not the tenant that had.
Yeah, Pilates, I think, that type of thing, exercise, salons, office, but to have like a store that actually does gifts and flowers, it doesn't seem like that's going to be successful there, just based on my experience. But I think the owner should do whatever they want with it and get whatever tenant they want that wants to pay the rent.
Any further comments, questions from the members of the commission? We have a request from staff and the developer to suspend the rules on a workshop. What is the pleasure of the commission?
Motion to suspend the rules.
Motion by Mr. McCarty. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bunkefus. Any further discussion? Staff, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Neal,
Aye.
Mr. Bunkefus,
Sure, yes.
was that a yes for Mr. Bunkefus? Okay. Mr. Horke,
Yes.
Mr. Khan,
Yes.
Dr. Keen,
Yes.
Ms. Carlson,
Yes.
and Mr. McCarty.
C.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Is there a motion on recommendation to city council?
Motion to send in favor of recommendation.
Motion by Mr. McCarty. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bunkefus. Any further discussion? Staff, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Bunkefus,
Yes.
Mr. Horke,
With some misgivings, yes.
Mr. Khan,
Yes.
Dr. Keen,
Yes.
Ms. Carlson,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Aye.
and Mr. Neal.
With no misgivings, aye. Motion
Motion
passes.
passes.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for riding out with us. Appreciate it.
Hey, we had 4 minutes last time.
I took we're paying for those 4-minute meetings. No other public hearings. Thank you very much. Items continue to, a future meeting is the 2412 PUD Park and Poplar. I assume we shouldn't talk about that, so we won't. Reports and comments, Plan Commission members to each other or staff. I actually do have one real quick item. Mr. Bunkefus and I were discussing in the meeting because we had so many members of the public here who we knew wanted to speak about things other than what's in our purview, which we get oftentimes. I wonder if it might be time to amend our rules of procedure to make a comment about what we can rule on. That might help weed some of that out, because if you don't say it, I will. In future meetings, I did that a little bit here to try to see if we could cut down some of that, knowing that we're going to talk about a lot of things. And of course, if they say it, they say it. Nothing we can do about that. This is a public hearing. They can say what they want. But maybe if we could start prefacing, hey, I don't know what that is. Maybe it's 2 sentences about here are the things we can do, and here are the items that we generally hear about that are excluded. Might be thought about.
Yes,
Thank
we can
you.
do that.
I appreciate that.
Could I?
Yes, Dr. Keen.
Let's say something to that. I think the public generally feels like government is non-responsive and doesn't want to hear from them. And doing something like this would tend to, I don't know if I would say embarrass them or inhibit them from speaking. And I don't like sitting through stuff and having them say things that aren't relevant. But I think that this is the one time they have an opportunity to do that, and I wouldn't really want to limit that. So,
Would you say the petitioners or even our ability to be non-responsive, though, is also us not listening? And so even if they get to say it, we're just saying, like, we don't have any purview over that. And so, like, they brought it up today about Town Road, and John was like, well, I'll just defer to somebody else. Or they brought up drainage, and nobody even talked about it tonight. And so, like, they bring up these things. They have no idea what this body does, more than likely. And so just that point of clarification to say, hey, here's our purview. You can still talk about it if so desired, but we're not going to be able to answer it.
Well,
And maybe to your point, Dr. King, maybe it's not including, maybe I erred, maybe we shouldn't include exclusions. Maybe we should just include what's included.
Yeah.
This hearing is about X, Y, Z.
In my head, it aids in the efficiency of the process and hopefully just gives people tighter guardrails of like, really, here's what we are here to talk about today.
Right.
So they feel more heard and they can be more concise, really is the end goal, hopefully.
So just something to noodle around with staff, maybe looking at making a sentence or two, maybe regarding inclusions instead of exclusions, just to say this is what we're here to talk about. They talk about it, they talk about it.
Yeah,
Perfectly
we can
fine.
look at integrating
Great.
something like that.
Thank you. Other members of the Plan Commission to each other or staff? Seeing and hearing none. City Council Liaison.
Yeah, just try to be brief, that we had a Parks Master Plan presentation update at our prior city council meeting on 3/24. Highly recommend, if you're interested, to go back and watch that. Otherwise, the majority of items that were on the agenda were items that we addressed this evening. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Board of Zoning Appeals Liaison.
We meet tomorrow night, big one-item agenda, so hold your breath for the next meeting so we can report out to you.
Wait with bated breath on what that entails. Thank you. Plat Committee Liaison, Mr. Horkey.
I know you'll all be crestfallen, crushed. We did not meet, and next week's meeting's canceled.
Understood. Staff, Community Development Department to the board.
I don't think we have anything. We're all set.
I do have a procedural question. I was not here, obviously, for the special meeting. Minutes of that meeting, because it was a joint meeting, how will those be approved and presented? Because we didn't approve them today.
I can check on that, but I think they'll probably be on the next meeting.
Okay. I just want to make sure that that doesn't get missed. Very good. If there are no other items before the commission, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion
Second.
and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned at 9:06. And I said over 9 o'clock, so I win.